It was not unusual at the beginning of the last century for large steel windjammers to founder off Cape Horn or collide with steamers in the English Channel. But how did the Pisagua end up in a place as remote as Laeisz Island in Antarctica? The four-masted barques Placilla and Pisagua, built by Tecklenburg in 1891-92, were the forerunners of the series of 8 steel four-masted barques that the Hamburg shipping company F. Laeisz had built between 1902 and 1926 at the O.C. Tecklenburg, Geestemünde, and Bloem en Vos, Hamburg, shipyards for the transport of saltpeter from Chile. The extremely fast and regular journeys of these ships compared to other sailing ships eventually earned the shipping company the nickname Flying P-Line. This series includes the still existing sister ships Peking and Passat, both museum ships, the Padua, still in service today as a sailing training ship Krusenstern, as well as the Pamir, widely known for its tragic sinking in 1957, and Pangani, Petchili, Pola, and Prewall, whose names are only remembered by old sailors and specialists for large sailing ships. For the ship owner, the Placilla and Pisagua were not only an economic experiment, but above all, a technical one. After the small wooden brigs of the early days, Laeisz had only commissioned new full-rigged ships and barques, or bought them second-hand until the beginning of the 1890s. The 2 new ships were unusual not only in terms of their rigging, but also in terms of their size, as the Laeisz ships built or bought in previous years were usually measured at around 1,000 to 1,500 GRT. Only the steel full-rigged ships Palmyra, Parchim, Pera, Posen, and Pampa, built in the 1880s, had reached around 1,700 GRT, the maximum size for a 3-masted sailing ship. In England, even larger full-rigged ships were in fashion for a while, but they turned out to be hardly manageable. Still well known today are British Isles and Grace Harwar, both notorious for losing several men on almost every voyage. The Placilla, on the other hand, was measured at 2,485 GRT, and the Pisagua at 2,852 GRT, each with an overall length of 113 meters. The only difference between the 2 ships was the length of the hulls. At 104 meters, Pisagua was 6 centimeters longer than her sister, which was built first. In addition, both ships had the newly developed so-called 3-island hulls, with a midship superstructure integrated into the hull, which not only strengthened the hull, but also provided dry quarters for the entire crew, which was a great advantage on the Cape Horn voyage, as well as an extremely stable steel rig and the labor-saving brass and halyard winches patented by Captain Jarvis. Both four-masted barques sailed beyond all expectations, the Placilla even sailing excellently. Under Captain Hilgendorf, they set the record of 58 days on their maiden voyage to Chile from the mouth of the English Channel to Iquique in Chile. The best voyage of the Pisagua was 65 days from the Channel to Valparaiso in 1908 under Captain Frumke, who was notorious for his extremely hard sailing. After this voyage, he took over the 5-masted barque Potosi, with which he made 4 even better voyages to Chile, until he finally had to be replaced for health reasons. Collision. In 1909, Frumke handed the Pisagua over to Captain Ardam, who was still captaining her when she, fully loaded with saltpeter on her way home from Chile, rammed the P&O steamer Oceana near Beachy Head in the English Channel on the night of March 15 to 16, 1912. The steamer sank within a few minutes, killing 17 people. The Pisagua was badly damaged. Her bow was dented by a good 5 meters. Only the solid construction and the collision bulkhead saved her from sharing the steamer's fate. 2 tugs took the badly damaged 4-masted barque to Dover and from there to Hamburg, where she was unloaded and then condemned. This means that the repair costs would have exceeded the value of the ship, which is why the insurance company declared the ship a total economic loss. At the maritime trial in England, the officer of the watch on the Oceana was held entirely responsible for the collision. He had misjudged the speed of the sailing ship and tried to pass in front of the bow of the Pisagua, although sailing ships always have the right of way over motor-driven ships. Whaling support ship. On June 5, 1912, Laeisz sold the Pisagua to the shipping company A.S. Ornandes Readers Christensen from the Norwegian whaling stronghold of Sandefjord. There, the saltpeter sailing ship was converted for use in the then newly developed whaling industry in the Antarctic. The Pisagua was to become a supply ship and auxiliary blubber cookery for the Norwegian whaling base on the South Shetland Islands in the north of the Antarctic Peninsula. Around 1870, the son of shipmaster Laurentius Foyn, Sven Foyn from Tunsberg, Norway, invented the harpoon gun, and at the same time, serious exploration of the areas south of Cape Horn, which had only been visited by a few explorers until then, began. Around the turn of the last century, the Sandefjord captain Carl Anton Larsen set up the first Norwegian whaling station for shipowner Christensen on the islands of the South Georgia Group, which lie much further northwest of the South Shetland Islands. In the first season in 1903, the whalers there killed 6,197 humpback whales, which were processed into blubber and whale oil at the Grytviken station. In 1906, the whale processing station on Deception Island, an island in the South Shetland Group, followed. The great slaughter in the previously untouched waters around the Arctic had begun. On October 17, 1912, the repaired and rebuilt Pisagua, still a pure sailing ship without auxiliary machinery, although with a boiler on board for cooking blubber, left her new home port of Sandefjord. The steam tug Hibernia took her to Laeisz, Scotland, where she took on board equipment and provisions for the Hector whaling station on Deception Island. Then she went on to South Shields for a load of coal, also for the station. From there, the former Flying P liner set off for the Antarctic on November 8, 1912. The South Shetland Islands. It is not without reason that all Cape Horn sailors always tried to avoid these islands, which are located just a few hundred nautical miles south of the Cape of Storms. There are no lighthouses there, but instead there are countless icebergs and uncharted shallows. One of these is around Low Island, the southwestern cornerstone of the island chain, which got its name because it is the only island in the whole group that does not consist of high mountains visible from far away, but only of a flat ridge of hills. Deception Island, located a little to the northeast of Low Island, is the remains of a volcano and one of only 4 craters in the world that you can sail into. The walls rise so steeply out of the sea that only a few small glaciers can form on the east side. This is why the island does not look as forbidding from a distance as the other islands in the group, which are covered in snow and ice. Nevertheless, Deception Island, the Island of Deception, is rightly named. It is just as bare and hostile to life as the other South Shetland Islands, and you would have to look long and hard to find a more dreary place in the world. In the sheltered bay, inside the storm-swept old crater, you can still see the remains of the whaling station that was in operation until the Great Depression in 1931. British scientists lived and worked in the buildings from 1944 to 1969. By this time, the Norwegians, British, Japanese, and Soviets had decimated the whale population through ruthless slaughter to the point that whaling was no longer profitable. To this day, the ground around the station is covered with the bones of the whales, and there is a small cemetery for the 35 people who died there, as well as a memorial to 10 whalers who died at sea. But in 1912, it had only just begun. The end of Pisagua. On January 16, 1913, after a 2.5-month journey, the officer of the watch on the Pisagua saw the chain of South Shetland Islands. Entry into the crater of Deception Island is only possible from the southwest, so the four-masted barque had to go around the southernmost island of the group, and from there work its way towards Deception Island. Due to the strong currents, frequent storms, and many icebergs, this is a difficult undertaking for a sailing ship, but tug assistance is not available down there. On January 17, 1913, there was a crash. The four-masted barque ran aground in the shallows around Low Island. The Pisagua could not be saved in this remote location because it could not be freed by its own means, and tug assistance was not available. Nevertheless, the crew, together with the station crew on Deception Island, were able to salvage almost all of the equipment and the valuable coal cargo. One of the first radio messages from the station on Deception Island was sent to the ship owner to inform him that his newly purchased four-masted barque had run aground. The Pisagua was insured for 318,000 Norwegian kroner, but the ship owner, Kristen Christensen, was still left with a loss of 54,713 kroner. Today, there is no trace of the Pisagua at Laeisz Island. Not even a wreck mark on the nautical chart remains of the four-masted barque. More than 100 years of Antarctic storms have ensured this.